Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back in day to about tying off an Amagami Sister, chapter number 191. This chapter is titled 191st Knot, Tying the Skies Together, Princess. And oh my gosh, what a nice end to Asahi's arc was this chapter here today. On one hand, I was sort of going into this one a little bit of the same how I was with last one, being like, Asahi has never particularly been my favorite character, and mainly that stemmed from the fact that she was a whole lot younger than Uryu, right? And because of her age difference, of course, when Uryu was 17 in our main run of the story, it was one of those things that was a little weird, all things to say considered, right? But ever since we have gotten these two chapters that really signify the end of Asahi's role in the story, I mean, of course, this is the route where she gets married to Uryu. It's the second chapter covering this route, so it's really what we all knew and were expecting were going to happen pretty much. But ever since Asahi's been grown up and been more mature and been like just doing all these things with Uryu, it's been like a whole lot more enjoyable for me as a fan of this series to sit down and be like, man, maybe Asahi's character does have a lot of merit to it. And this is one of those chapters where I think I had a smile on my face the entire time I was reading it. And there was even a point where I was just like, oh, that's so sweet. And just like did that for almost a minute straight, I think. As I finished off the rest of the chapter, like, damn, this was a pretty good one, right? Granted, there is a little bit of a weird moment in the middle of this chapter, and it's the same weird moment that happened in the middle of Yahei's final chapter as well, but we will be getting there whenever we get there in the chapter itself. But yeah, without any further ado, let's finish off Asahi's arc and see why this chapter regards Asahi as the princess, right? But yeah, before we get started on this one, let me just quickly go over what happened last time in tying off an Amagami Sister. And very simply put, it was a chapter all about Asahi and like, hey, she's at the US, and oh no, it really sucks. It looks like she got dropped from her college club sports team, pretty much, of course, the running team. And this is a very sad thing for Asahi to have to go through, because it's like her dream is getting ruined here in the moment, right? But whenever Asahi was going through all of this, of course, her roommate, who is currently Karin, was like, hey, Uryu, your girlfriend's in some trouble right now. You probably should come see her. And Uryu was flown over to the States. And there's this really funny, like, fictionized cop who was there. And it's like, hey, son, what are you doing looking over this fine young woman's shoulder, pretty much, right? And just doing all of this various stuff. Like, hey, you're a creeper. And Uryu's like, no, I'm sorry. I'm actually not one of those, right? But eventually getting to the whole point of Uryu hanging out with Asahi. And eventually being like, hey, while it looks like this coach did drop you, they still see all of the potential that you have. And he eventually proposed to Asahi and just was like, hey, whenever you reach your goal and win the Olympics, let's the two of us get married, pretty much, right? And we ended off the chapter with a little bit of a joke where Asahi's like, well, looks like I gotta get running then, right? And we start off this one in a little bit of a weird scenario, as we start off 4 years later at the Summer Olympics. And man, this is just a really, really fun thing to see. This is like the Olympic banner over the head of all of the characters. Technically, this series started... So, as I thought, the Tying Off an Amagami Sister manga started in April of 2021, which means that the previous Summer Olympics would have been in 2020. At least I think those were the Summer Olympics, if I'm not mistaken. And then it was sort of been that whole thing where, like, hey, a year passed, eventually Asahi made it up to college and all of that. So this is probably taking place at the 2028 Olympics, if I'm not mistaken. But also, I have no idea about any of that in the slightest. That is just my random guess based off the first panel and knowing the timeline, the brief timeline of this series, all things considered, right? But of course, we see, Uryu, Yahei, and Yuna are all in the stands, as we see none other than Asahi running in the event, right? As we see that Asahi just has her Olympic number on all the things, and she's got the number 3,333 emblazoned on her chest. And as we see Asahi is running, we get a little bit of narration from her perspective, as she just thinks, man, I feel so hot, but it's only natural. I'm running my hardest and on a very hot day. But this heat is more than just physical. I feel hot on the inside too. As we just hear her chest going ba-dump, 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 just beating inside of her, and the crowd around her roaring and cheering her on. As Asahi just has a very determined smile, sweat running off her face. As she just thinks like, oh, but it's only natural. As you see that as she's doing this, there's, of course, the Olympic announcers going through and calling the event, and we just see they're like, Japan in the lead for the women's marathon, with Asahi Amagami leading the pack by a country mile. There's a considerable distance between her and second place right now, but anything could happen as she enters the final stretch. And as the announcer does all of this, we get some more narration from Asahi's perspective, as Asahi just thinks like, hey, ever since I was a child, I've dreamed of this moment, so I kept running. No matter how many times I may have stumbled or fell, I kept running. I ran and ran, and I ran some more, one foot in front of the other. And now I finally arrived. As we get all of this imagery of course, whenever Asahi was young, running in shoes that she never was meant to be running in by any sort of means. As she got older, she was running some more, but there were cracks in the road, and she was tripping and falling. But no matter what, she just kept running to get to the place where she is now, and to eventually run and cross the finish line. As we see that Asahi does this, throws her arms up in the air, and the entire stadium here at the Olympics is just cheering for Asahi. Of course, Uryu and the two other girls are there just like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And I love how Uryu's the one to like hands up like, yeah, let's go, Asahi. And we just see that Yahe and Yuna are sitting there hugging each other, just crying because of this moment. It's honestly pretty funny, but I completely get that. It makes perfect sense. Like, they're just so happy for their sister, you know? But as all of this happens, of course, this is, I don't know where the 2028 Olympics are being held pretty much, but either way, we see some random guy in the stands in a business suit who is sitting here and speaking in English, and he's like, oh, Asahi Amagami from Japan, huh? Asahi. Oh, doesn't that mean the princess of the morning? That's quite the name befitting for a queen if I've ever heard one, right? And we see there's a lady sitting beside this business guy, and she's like, oh, I guess, right? As this businessman just goes, oh, and I've got it, why don't we use that girl? Let's collaborate and design a line of shoes with her to promote her brand and us as well. You'd help out with a project like that, wouldn't you, Oi? And we just see, of course, this is Oi. This is Asahi's mother. It's what, Oi Kiyomizu or whatever. And she's like, oh man, that idea ain't half bad. Wow, that's so cool. I'm glad that we saw Asahi's terrible parents here in the moment, right? Man, it's such a good feeling to see, like, there, and it even is funnier for the whole idea of this business guy's like, oh yes, I've got it. Why don't we use her? Like, I get the whole point of Asahi's second story arc was revolving around that whole idea of like, hey, Asahi's parents have this thing to where they were in this sort of situation, like, what was her father's name? Genji. He wasn't a great person. He was always chasing around the world, chasing after their mother, which went out and made this shoe line because Asahi loves running. I get all of that. This chapter would have been better if we just didn't focus on Asahi's deadbeat parents, because, like I said, they're deadbeats. They're not good people. I don't care about them in the slightest, right? But whatever. We see Oi here. It's whatever, right? But either way, as all of this happens, the race is over and Asahi has won. And of course, Uryu is able to come down and see Asahi, and he's just like, hey, Asahi, right? Confetti is going everywhere. Asahi pretty much has her towel, or what is it, like the banner thing over her arms pretty much, over her like shoulders and all of that. And Asahi's just like, hey, please excuse me. I know I made you wait longer than planned, but now that I'm the greatest woman in the world, you'll marry me, won't you? As we see, of course, she is holding up her first place medal. Everyone's like, oh yeah, of course. And they just give each other a really big hug. And he's like, hey, congratulations, Asahi. And it's honestly a really nice moment. But of course, that is the last scene we see from the Olympics, as we now cut back over to California, USA. It is so funny that the final two Asahi chapters both just happen in California. Like, I'm happy for Asahi. You couldn't pay me to ever live in California. Granted, I live on the East Coast of the United States already, so, like, I am biased to my location. But, like, still, I'm not moving to California. Too many people there, right? But either way, we see that Uryu is dressed up in this nice tuxedo. It looks like it's almost like a white shirt with like a tie and everything. But he's got over it like it looks probably to be like a beige or something sweater vest like that. It's a little bit of a cool look. But we just see that Uryu's like, oh my god, why does the day of our wedding of all days have to be so freaking hot? As you see that Uryu is just standing on a beach with the sun beating down. And as Uryu's sort of just complaining about all of this, we see that somebody just says from behind Uryu like, hey, what's wrong with a little heat? I like being hot way more than being cold, you know. As of course, this is Asahi in her wedding dress. Of course, beside her, she has her two sisters, Yuna and Yahe, right? And it's the same sort of panel we got last chapter, or I'm sorry, 2 chapters ago of Yahe's whole story arc. It's honestly funny how much these chapters are like mirroring each other. Like, the events are different, but we still get a full page spread of Uryu seeing the girl in a wedding dress, pretty much, right? And of course, the 2 other sisters are standing next to them as they do it, pretty much, right? And of course, we also get a page later, but I'll get to all of that here in a moment, right? But yeah, Asahi is wearing this dress. It's definitely a different one than the one that Yahe was wearing. She was wearing more of a traditional Western, like, full bridal dress. And Asahi is sort of wearing more of, like, a toned down, almost like more princess, like, almost like a ballerina-esque dress, I'm going to say. I don't know. I don't exist in that world. I have no idea in the slightest, pretty much. But that's what it looks like to me anyway, right? And Uryu's like, oh yeah, that's true, and you're definitely hot, I'll say that myself. Oh man, look at you being such a nice boyfriend, or I now guess husband, whatever it means to be, right? Honestly, it's a little bit of a funny thing, like, I don't understand how Asahi's like, yeah, I like being hot way more than I like being cold. In my mind, if you're freezing cold, you can always get yourself warmer. You can get fire, you can get warm clothing, gear, whatever it is, and make yourself warmer. Well, if it's hot, you have a whole lot less options to cool yourself down, which, I don't know, it may just be my personality. I would much rather be cold any day of the week than be extremely hot, but I don't know. Maybe this is why I just haven't liked Asahi, and I just didn't know it until the final chapter of the series, right? But either way, Asahi's just like, oh, you're so sweet, Uryu, right? As the whole idea, Yahe's like, oh man, getting married right on the beach in a foreign country, like, that's so romantic, right? And yeah, Yuna's like, oh man, a world-class destination wedding for a world-class Olympic gold athlete, pretty much, right? And eventually we just see that Asahi's like, hey, and it's not just that. This is the place where we were when Uryu-san actually proposed to me, right? Oh, look, that's such a nice thing, right? And we also see that Asahi's like, hey, and as we see the wedding venue where everybody is, and oh, this is such a nice and sweet moment. We see that the beach is lined with a bunch of Tanabata trees, of course with all of the wish paper on it here in the moment, right? As you see, Yahe's like, yeah, and look at this, lining the beach with all the Tanabata trees, wish trees, was a great idea pretty much, right? And Yuna's like, oh, and letting all the attendees write on their own wishes is so exciting pretty much, right? And Asahi's like, yes, I may be an athlete, but I'm also a Miko in my heart as well, pretty much, right? I'm like, hey, and these wishes aren't just for Uryu and me, they're wishes for the happiness of all of our guests as well. As we see that, of course, Asahi pulls out 2 from her back pocket and says, like, hey, and that means your 2's happiness as much as mine, Yane and Yuna, pretty much, right? And she hands them to both of her sisters, pretty much. And the 2 of them just have a really nice smile on their face that they share. Like, oh, hey, like, thanks, Asahi. I'm sure our wish will come true. As we see that all 3 of the sisters wrote the same exact thing of may we all be happy. And of course, as they write this, Yuna just is like, hey, I'm wishing most for your happiness in this world, Asahi, right? And she's like, aw, thank you guys so very much, right? Well, as this happens, we now see that sort of Asahi and Uryu get a little bit more private time to herself here in the moment. As we just see that Asahi's like, hey, Uryu, do you remember when the 2 of us were lost in that endless Tanabata? And Uryu's like, yeah, of course I do. That was an absolute nightmare, pretty much, right? And Asahi's like, hey, I don't think about it that way at all. Because it was that endless Tanabata that I began to wish for you and I to tie the knot after all. And Uryu's like, oh, Asahi, right? And we now see they're in the service. And of course, the whole moment comes up like, hey, you may now kiss the bride. As we just end off this chapter with more narration from Asahi's perspective. As Asahi just thinks like, hey, it's such a warm feeling. I didn't need family. I could survive on my own. I'd become an independent adult. I was so cold back then. But then I found a new family, a rival to keep me striving ahead, and also a love worth keeping forever. And now my body and heart both are as warm as the morning sun. As we just see that all of these memories she has of herself as a child whenever she was so cold and very jaded to the world. Of course, her found family, her sisters, her best friend and her rival Karin, and of course, her husband now, Uryu. As we see that she leans in and kisses Uryu here in the moment, as we just get the final narration and the final page of Asahi's storyline, of course framed with a knot being tied in the moment with the red cord throughout its run through this entire series. And of course, just an image, a picture, a still shot of the moment whenever Asahi became wed to Uryu. As the final bit of narration just reads, "Today begins the marathon of my happiness, and I'll keep running into eternity." As we get to chapter title, 191st Knot, Tying the Skies Together, Princess. And that's where we end Asahi's storyline, along with chapter number 191 of Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister. Ah, man, this was, it was just such a nice chapter once again. I really wish that we would have gotten more of Asahi in the story when, of course, she was older and an older, more mature character. I understand why. I mean, Marcy Naito, you wrote a brilliant story with the whole premise of, like, hey, Miko at a shrine. One of them's older, one of them's the same age as Uryu, and then one of them is younger. It's just a really weird thing where one of your main female love interests, especially as a student in college now, whenever it's like, oh yeah, this girl is 14 years old. Man, I love reading that, right? It just, like, skeeves me out a little bit, right? But of course, I'm like, whenever it's, like, a lot more mature, like, yeah, Asahi's gotta be, like, 23, like, 21, like, definitely much older than she was in the main part of the story by now. It just makes it feel so much better and more normal to be able to read this instead of when you're like, yeah, this is a little weird, you know what I'm saying? And of course, that's a complaint I've had of this series for the longest time, ever since I really discovered it. But overall, this is just a really nice chapter. Of course, as I mentioned, there is the weird part. Man, Asahi's mother is here. Oi Kiyomizu. Man, I'm so happy to know that she was here watching Asahi win the performance. I understand all of these girls and connections with having ties with Uryu have ties with their best friends and, of course, their parents. And the parents have been a very contrasting and polarizing topic throughout this entire series. I understand we needed to add them in somewhere. It was a little weird whenever Yahei's parents didn't show up when, like, Yahei has been building a fine relationship with them, so why wouldn't they show up? They are her parents, after all. Like, they should be happy to see her get wed to Uryu out of anybody. So it's like, what's going on here, pretty much? And, of course, Asahi's parents, as I mentioned earlier, are terrible people. I didn't care about them at all throughout any point of the story. I thought they were... Yeah, I'm not going to say anymore. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. In that case, I don't know why I'm covering Marching Crown on this YouTube channel, but either way there, right? It's just a little weird to see Oi just appear here and, like, man, that's a good idea. Maybe we'll work with Asahi. I really hope Asahi turns them down. It would be for the best out of everything, right? But of course, just a really nice moment of the wedding, and I couldn't tell you how much I was like, oh my gosh, it's so sweet. Whenever I saw the moment of all of the Tanabata wish trees on the beach, it's such just a little thing that reminds us all back to Asahi's initial arc of the whole idea of, like, hey, stuck in the endless Tanabata, running for my dreams and realizing what I really want to achieve. And in the same moment, she's achieved all of those wishes. She's married Uryu. She's won the Olympics for marathon. And of course, with the whole idea of the marathon, just the final narration of Asahi being like, man, it's such a warm feeling in my heart and in my being, knowing who I was, who I've become. And now that I'm happy, I just feel like the morning sun inside my body. It just feels so nice. And like the whole idea of, like, today begins the marathon of my happiness, and I'll keep running into eternity. It's, oh man, it's just really sweet, man. I just like the whole idea of, like, hey, I'm going to continue off this happiness and it's never going to quit. It's such a nice thing, and of course for a character like Asahi, who had a whole focus on running as a character, which again was a really just fun character trait for Asahi to have. It's just a good chapter. I don't know what else to say. I've said everything I wanted to. Just a good old chapter of this series. And yeah, with all of that out of the way, I really don't have too much else to say about Tying Off an Amagami Sister chapter number 191. Of course, the end of Asahi's arc, and it was a good chapter at that, right? But hey, if you guys want to hear me talk about more Tying Off an Amagami Sister, well, luckily for you guys, the series has ended. I guess sort of not luckily enough for you guys, but either way, I know I'm behind on, I guess I'm behind on 3 videos now, being that we have the next 2 chapters are the Yuna arc, and then of course the final chapter itself. So you got 3 more chapters after this one, and all of those will be coming out here in the next, hopefully about 5 to 6 days here on the YouTube channel. But until that happens, thank you guys all so much for watching this video on this chapter. I've been covering this series since chapter number 176, which was the beginning of the Tying the Skies Together arc. If you guys want to go check out any of those videos, there will be a playlist in the description box of this video. It will be linked on the end card of this video, so go check out that playlist there. I also cover plenty of other anime and manga related content, like the Kagurabachi manga, as I mentioned a second, the March and Crown manga. I cover World Trigger, and I cover Weekly Shonen Jump whenever I am not making Amagami Sister videos. The Ramble videos on Weekly Shonen Jump will be coming back. I've just gotta finish Amagami first, right? And then of course I cover anime if I have time, which normally I don't. I've started like 8 series of anime, and I finished like 1 of them. If you count, I got through an entire season of Bleach while it was airing, and I haven't gone back to it, and we're about to get to 4th core. Yeah, I don't really want to talk about that one, right? But hey, maybe I should go to a Tanabata festival, just fly to Japan, and write it down on my wish card, have a nice old Nico sign-off on it, you know what I'm saying? But either way, I will catch you guys next time for Tying Off an Amagami Sister, chapter number 192. And yeah, this is chapter number 191 again. Again, this was titled, not number 191, Tying the Skies Together, Princess. And yeah, the good old Princess of Asahi. I'm happy to see Yuna next time. Best girl, we saved for last. But yeah, I'll catch you guys then. Speed Glowplasma 231 signing out. Man, this was a good chapter. I really can't tell you how much I want to go to a Tabantha festival in Japan. I want to go to one so bad, or Tanabata, whatever it's called. I really hope I can go to Japan sometime and do one of these. It seems so absolutely cool. I'll catch you guys next time. God, I want to go to one so bad.